Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's nice to see all of you here on this call. I am Theresa Sladek from Literacy, Minnesota, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And today we're gonna kind of, last week we looked at what NorthStar had, the different aspects of NorthStar. And today we're actually going to get really into how to use NorthStar. So how to get started to do some of the tasks that you're going to do at the beginning of using NorthStar. I really welcome all questions and comments. You can, we have a bigger group, so maybe put them in the chat. Or you can unmute too and ask me a question. So don't feel bad about interrupting me, because normally the questions you have, a lot of other people have too. So let's get started. We're going to talk about like I said, some of the tasks that you will initially be doing in NorthStar. We're going to talk about how to create learner accounts. We're going to talk about proctoring and how to do that both in person and remotely. Take a look at some of the reports you have access to and why you might use them. And then where you can find our instructor-led curricula and kind of the components to that. And then there's a wealth of resources in NorthStar on how to use NorthStar. So just want to make sure you're aware of that as you go forward. So just as a refresher from what we talked about last week, NorthStar currently has 14 assessments. And if you remember, there was kind of those, things like starting out with basic computer, internet basics, email, kind of through Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then some a little bit more advanced skills like career search, information literacy, those kinds of things. Of those 14 assessments, we have 12 of the instructor-led curriculum created and completed. And the team is actually working right now on creating the final touches on information literacy, which their goal date to have that done is this Friday. So you should be getting an email from NorthStar within the next week saying that that's available to you in your admin portal. We also have a self-directed online learning. So this is, again, another way. We have the instructor-led curriculum, and another way for people to learn is through the self-directed online learning modules, the practice modules. And we have 6 of those of the 14 completed. And currently the team is working on Excel. And then of course we have reports, which we're going to talk, about today quite a bit. So those are the, big overview picture of what's in NorthStar. So today I want to talk to you, you should all have access to the admin portal now. So if you don't, then you want to be talking to your administrator at your college, your community college, and make sure that they add you as a staff person, right? So for those of you who are administrators, the way you do that is you would have access to the NorthStar admin portal, and I will show you this. But under location information is where you can add staff, and you can choose to add staff, people as staff or as a proctor. Staff would be anyone who has access to the NorthStar admin portal. So that would be if you're going to add learners, run reports, access the curriculum. All those roles would be staff. If in addition, someone is going to proctor assessments, so that means they're going to watch people take the assessments, then you can also give them the proctoring function. And if you do that, then for those of you who are proctors, you'll get an email from NorthStar. It will say, watch this like 15-minute video and take a little quiz. And then you get what's called a proctor pin that's unique to you. So just so you know that, and then of course you create a password like it says, so that you can access the admin portal later. So I'm hoping that all of you have access to the admin portal right now. But if you don't, like I said, talk to your administrator at your college, your NorthStar administrator at your college, and let them know that you need access. So when you get into the NorthStar admin portal, we're going to be talking a lot about navigating it today. This is what you're going to see. So over here on the left, you're going to see the NorthStar logo. And then where mine says demo, it will have the name of your school. And then you can see that there's a learner tab, assessment tab, reports, location information, what I was just telling you about. If you are an administrator, this is where you would go to add staff. So you are responsible for adding staff at your location. And that's where you would do that. And then resources. You also see over here on the far right, my locations, that's mostly, you all mostly will just have one. I happen to have several. And then you'll see your name there too. All right, so let's talk about how to add a learner into the NorthStar admin portal. And does anyone remember, and like this is kind of a tricky question, but does anyone remember why I would want to add learners to the NorthStar learner management system? Why would I want to do that? Any reason that you can think of, or guess? You can guess. What's the value in it? Why would I take the time? So Deanna says to track progress. Yep, to save their progress. So you would have access to reports that that would tell you what's going on with them. Certification purposes, someone can get certified for an assessment without being in the learner management system. The biggest reason to add them is so that they have access to the self-directed online learning. So they cannot access that unless they're in the learner management system. And then, of course, you can't get reports on what they're, if they're not using it, you can't get the reports from the time they would be using it. So that's the biggest reason. So if you're going to allow access to the practice modules, the self-directed online learning practice modules, then you want the learners to be in the system, but also definitely to look at their progress and to look at reports specific to them. So how do we do that? Pretty easy. We're going to first talk about, though, when you add a learner, one thing to think about is that in NorthStar, you can tag them. And the tag can be whatever is useful to your organization. So it may be that you say, I want to see in a sub-report only those learners that are in my class. So I might say, tag it with, teacher Theresa, for example, or maybe Word would be the class. You may have other tags that are important to you, like maybe you're looking at people who are coming in for orientation versus people who are in a specific class already. You can create whatever tags are relevant to your organization that you might want to see that subset of, a report on that subset of learners. NorthStar doesn't have any pre-created tags. We only say that you can't have like personally identifiable information. So no social security numbers, no driver's licenses, no birth dates. But other than that, you can create whatever tags you want. And so that's one thing you might want to think about at your organization. And you can always add tags, but before you add the learners, it's a good thing to think about maybe what tags you would want and your initial to use with your initial set of learners. So let's look at how you do that. So first you would log into your admin portal. And can anyone tell me how I do that? Where do I go to log into my admin portal? NorthStar admin portal. Any ideas? I know sometimes it takes a while for people to write. All right, let's see. Yes, very good. Put the website in there, the digitalliteracy-assessment.org. And for those of you who have created your password, you can save that you can bookmark that page so that you can go right to it whenever you go into the system. If for some reason you forgot to do that admin, If you actually just go to the NorthStar page, the NorthStar homepage, which is just the digitalliteracy.assessment.org, there is a place for you to enter your username and password there too. Yeah, great idea to bookmark it. So let's take a look at this. Let's see. Okay. So I do want to show you how to, I'm logged out now anyway, so we're going to go to the main NorthStar page. So if I just went, if I didn't have my page bookmarked, if I just went to the NorthStar homepage, this is the NorthStar homepage, you can see the login here on the upper right. If I click on that and put in my email address that's been assigned, that you've used in this, and the password you created, and then log in, it will take me to my admin portal as well. Now I have a bunch of options that you most likely won't have. Most likely it will just come up with your name of your college. So when I log in, one of the first things I see is this, I'm on this demo tab here, which for you will have the name of your organization. And here it gives me some information we're going to talk about later, but here's this unique location pin that would be unique to your site, your school, and then if you are a proctor, your unique proctor pin that's unique to you. So that's always a handy place to find it under the name of your organization. And someone said the link won't load. The admin.digitalliteracy.assessment, not assessments.org. So you might want to try it again. Maybe there's a bunch of people trying to get into it at the moment. So we're going to look at the Learners tab here next to the word demo. And as I said, we're first going to look at how to create these new tags. So you can see that right now I'm on underneath this blue navigation bar, the View Learners tab is highlighted. And I want to go over to the Manage Tags, right where it says New, and click on that. So here is where I can enter these new tags. And let's say my new tag is, I don't know, anyone have a tag that they might use for their students? Any ideas? I've got a lot of them here. But we could put, let's just call it orientation. I don't know. Orientation group. So then I press create tag, and then that information, I should use the word fall 21. They're alphabetical, and so you can see orientation group. If I had like misspelled it or want to change it, I could just click on the pencil there and edit it. All the other information here, this copy launch URL, that's pretty sophisticated and is really only used by a very small portion of NorthStar subscribers. It was kind of made specifically for one state. So you don't really need to worry about that. But if I decided I didn't want this tag anymore, you can see the trash can next to it and I could just delete it. So now I have my tag, and I'm going to also create the word fall 21 because that's will come in handy. And so you can see you can create as many tags as you want. All the tags listed here are the ones that your fellow staff members have created. And then you can see here's our word fall 21. So now I want to add, I've got my tags initially that I want to use. And now I want to add some learners. So if I click on the View Learners again, anyone take a guess, and this is an easy question. Where might I go to add new learners? What tab do you see or button do you see that I might go to?
New.
Yep, to the Invite New Learner. Very good. All right, so I go to Invite New Learner, click on that. And then all you need in NorthStar to add someone to Learner Management System is their first name, their last name, and their email address. Now, of course, some of the learners that you're working with may not be able to use email. They may not have the digital literacy skills to use email. So you can either create an email for them, and provide it to them. You can even create a dummy email too, if you want to. So some organizations will create an email that will say, the name of their organization at gmail.com. And then they'll just let's say, North Carolina Community College 1 at gmail.com, North Carolina Community College 2 at gmail.com. So it just has to be a unique, it just has to have a Gmail address. The learner doesn't have to access email. If they don't know how to yet, that's okay. They just need the email to log in. So as long as you provide them that email address you created, they just need to log in. Now, many of your learners, you might just create, routinely, many organizations create emails for their learners, and that's great. So someone asked, can the email used be one of our admin emails? Sure. So what will happen is that you will get an email from NorthStar saying that this person has been added. So just be aware of that. That will come to your admin email. And then asking to set up a password. But there are other ways for you to set up a password if you, again, feel that your learner isn't able to do that. So let's see. Let's create this learner. And I'm going to make up an email. And then I want to enter some tags to this person. So you can see when I'm not in the tag field, it's blank. But once I click in it, it gives me all the options of the tags that have already been created. So if we wanted to add, this person for the word fall 21, we can do it. We can add as many tags as we want. So if we want to add them to our Monday PM class, we can, so again, you can attach as many tags as you want to each learner. And then I would click on invite learner. And then it will show up in my list of learners. And these are alphabetical by last name. So, I use Wildcat, so I should have used something that started with A, but so it's going to be on my last page. And here it is, Carolina Wildcat. And you can see this yellow clock next to it, and that means it's pending. So what that means is an email has been sent to that email address you put in there, and it said, you've been invited. I'll show you what it looks like, but you've been invited to NorthStar, comes from NorthStar. Please create a password. Now, your learner may, like I said, may not be able to create a password, and that's okay. You can do that for them, and we'll talk about how to do that. So let's take a look at the email that they would get. Well, I'm going to skip that for a second. So this is what the email looks like. So again, you have to consider, can my learner read this? Do they have the reading proficiency to read it? And do they have the digital literacy proficiency to create a password? If the answer to either of those is no, then you can create that password for them. So the way to do that is, well, one thing to consider is if you do create a password, I would highly recommend using a consistent system. As you know, we all forget our passwords. And if you have a lot of learners coming to you forgetting their password, you want to have an easy way of saying, okay, it was, I know this is what I always use. So here we are by Delaware Donna. You can see the clock there, meaning that they haven't created the password yet. If you go over to the right-hand side into this lightning bolt, you see that it's in the third rectangle. And click on that, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. You'll add their, it will have their first name, their last name, their email address. You'll create that password for them and then click update, and then they'll have the password. Now, if you have like a class coming in and you want to create a lot of, what do I want to say, you want to add a lot of learners at once into the NorthStar learner management system, you can do that a little bit easier by, if you have a spreadsheet with one column first name, one column last name, one column email address, you can then bulk upload it, and the system will automatically create learner accounts for all of those learners at once, send them all emails at once. The one thing you can't do, unfortunately, is to, in the spreadsheet, add a tag column, so it won't read that. So you have to tag after the fact, and we'll look at how you do that. But the way to add, the spreadsheet is, if we're in our, again, we're in our, under our learner tab, under view learners, right next to where we invited the new learner for one, I can do the import button, and that will import that spreadsheet and then create all those learners. So if for whatever reason you need to create tags, if you need to add tags to learners after they've already been created, no problem. If you're lucky enough to be the first person to add learners to your school's learner management system, and all your learners want to be tagged at the same way, you can click on this box right here, and that selects everybody, all 30, as you can see. Now, most likely you're not going to be that lucky, and some of the learners you're not going to want to tag. But you can still tag them in, in batches. So we can click, just click on a bunch of different learners, and as many as we want, really. And I'm just looking for one in particular to give you an example. And then you can see, oops, I think I cleared some. But then you can see I've assigned it to 4 learners. Here it shows me in the top right-hand corner here in the green. And I'm going to assign the tag, and I'm going to pick that, the one that we created, word file 21. And I'm also going to pick for this group that they're in Mrs. Robinson's class, and I'm going to apply. So then those tags, as you can see, have been added to those 4 learners. So pretty quick way to do that. Any questions about how to add the learners, why you would add the learners, or how to create the tags, or why you would create the tags? Okay. So let's go on then. You all actually should have a learner account yourself as well. And the reason you want that is because it will allow you to see what the students are seeing. So like I said, having a student in a learner in the learner management system gives them access to the self-directed online learning. And you want to have access to that too, because you want to see what the students are seeing, right? So that you can talk to them about that. So when you've been, when you are added into the system, your administrator, what it automatically defaults to is that you will be given access to the learner management system and to that self-directed online learning. If for some reason you don't have access to it, you can always add yourself as a learner, just like I showed you with other learners, as long as you use that same email address that you use to get into the admin portal, then it will make it really easy for you. So now you say, well, Theresa, you're logged in in the admin portal. How do you see yourself as the learner? And that's a great question. So the way you kind of toggle between those 2 viewpoints of you as staff and you as learner is to go to your name over here on the right and click on that drop down arrow and go to NorthStar Online Learning. And once you do that, then you'll be seeing the dashboard, your dashboard, from the point of view of this is what learners see, right? So now I'm in here as Theresa, the learner. This is what learners see when they log into NorthStar. And so you can play around in here. You can look at what they see. You can you yourself can use the self-directed online learning, either just to see what it's like or even for your own edification. So that's kind of a handy feature. And then if you want to go back to being, Theresa, the staff person in the admin portal, I again go to my name, drop down arrow, and I would go back to admin portal. And then again, I have several options, but then here we are again in our admin portal. So highly recommend that you do that. And Erica said, does each student need to sign in with a unique email address? I believe I need to find this out. I think you could have the same email address as long as the passwords are different. But that would be something for you to try. See if it works. If you can sign up two, people with the same email address and different passwords. So, and I can try and find that out too, and let Dan know the answer to that, because I was thinking about that as we were talking, and I am not 100% sure on the answer to that. So I'll find that out for you. Very good question. All right. So here, just to remind you, these are the 14 assessments that we have. Again, just want to point out that, no one learner has to take all 14. It really depends on their goals and the goals of your organization, of what what assessments they take. Kind of highly recommend that you start out making sure people can pass the basic computer, the internet basics, and the using email, just because if you can't pass those, it's pretty hard to do any of the other topics. But you might have someone who you feel is fairly digitally literate, and they want to learn PowerPoint and just go to PowerPoint, and that's fine as well. So, use your best judgment. We talked about last time, but I want to reiterate how assessments are used. So often an organization will give an assessment with the idea of it being kind of a pre-assessment to see what somebody already knows. And a lot of times organizations will give those not proctored. And then once they see what someone knows, they'll provide the necessary instruction. So either through classes that they're giving or through the self-directed online learning or a combination. And then once that educational piece has been completed, then they'll give the same assessment that they gave in the pre-assessment as a post-assessment. And this time often it's proctored so that if someone passes, they can get that certificate. So that's kind of the best practice that we see. They can get that certificate only if it's proctored. So, and they pass. So that's just something for you to consider. If the certificates are important or the digital badges, then you would want to proctor the assessments. Assessments are often used also by many organizations to prepare your teaching staff. So a lot of teachers have never taught digital literacy, and they might feel intimidated by it. So to give the assessment and they know that they've passed helps them feel comfortable and confident in providing instruction. And then also there's many staff that aren't teaching, but might have gaps in their digital literacy knowledge. And so you can also use this just for professional development in of your staff, which many organizations do, because most of us really taught ourselves a lot of digital literacy. And so most of us have gaps just because maybe it was something we had never had to do, or we learned a way to do it that wasn't the most efficient. So going through the assessments can really help efficiency and give you some good tips on things you may not have known. So how do you take an assessment, or how does your learner take an assessment? I'm going to show you a few ways. So all of your schools have a unique assessment location web URL, so that when someone takes an assessment with that URL, all their information is tracked to your school. So as long as they're using that URL, then it all goes into the reports, all the numbers and how they did go into that report. So the way to find that URL is to go back into our admin portal. And you will find it again. Here I am under the name of my program. So in this case, demo. And you can see where it says location pin. Right here, the second bullet point is the bookmark. So this is the bookmark that gives your site specific URL. So if you're in person and you have computer lab or computers that people use, I would bookmark this so that when your learners are ready to take an assessment, they can just go to that bookmark and then take the assessment. If you're going to embed this in any way if you're going to embed NorthStar in like a class website or a school website, then you would want to use this URL for people to take assessments if you're going to do it that way. If you're going to if you're going to proctor remotely, then you can in the chat, put this bookmark, and then they can open it and take the assessment that way. So a couple of different ways they can do it. What it looks like for someone going into that URL looks like this. So you can see if I click on that URL, it has the name of my organization, my address, and then it tells me, tells me proctoring is off, but I could add it. And here are all the assessments. So if they were going to just take the assessment without it being proctored, they would just click on one of the assessments and it starts the assessment and they would take it. And then again, they would see a results page, but all that information would also go to your school, which makes it handy. If for some reason you're at a computer or a device with a learner and you don't have that site bookmarked on that computer and you don't remember it, and for some reason you don't want to go into your admin portal, which you could, but there's also this location pin, so you can always add that too. It will ask if you don't go in through your site specific URL, it will ask if there's a specific location pin. Pretty easy to memorize it. You can always add that too. So what that would look like would be, I need to log out. And then it really, really likes me to be logged in. But if you're at a computer where you don't have that URL bookmarked, you can have the person come to take an assessment. You come down here and then you can see it says if you want to save your results to NorthStar location, enter its 4-digit code. And here we put in the code and press go. And then it brings you again to that site specific URL. So, and here is where if the person had a learner account, they would, they can either log in up here or they can log in where it says login now, and they could add that, the email and the password that you had given them. Any questions about kind of how to take an assessment? We'll talk about proctoring, but just in terms of how to take an assessment. Okay. So we talked about why would you proctor, and the main reason is to give, the certificates to people who pass. It also maintains the assessment viability, which is great for NorthStar, but also make sure that that the person who's taking the assessment, no one's helping them, they're not using notes, they're not using their phone, it's actually what they know. And as I talked about, you can easily do proctoring in person or remotely, whatever, and both in the same day if you want to. So how do you do proctoring? It's pretty easy. It's not super intense like it might be for a GED test or something. But the thing to remember if you're doing in-person proctoring is that the test taker has to have access to a computer, a laptop, or a Chromebook. Not all of the assessments work 100%, they're not 100% compatible with mobile devices, so like a phone or a tablet. Much of the assessments you can do on them, there's some drag and drop questions that just can be done. So if that's all you have, if all your program has are tablets, or if that's all the learner has access to, you just need to know what assessments they just can't get right, because they don't have the ability to do that. And that's fine. Many programs do that. And we're working on making NorthStar mobile compatible as well. So, but at the moment, you need a computer, laptop, or Chromebook. I highly recommend having headphones, because with the assessment, there is audio. And so if there's anyone beside you and the learner in the room, that person is going to be hearing the audio. So recommend having headphones. Then you're going to help the learner log into that URL that I was telling you about. So it's either bookmarked on those computers, or maybe you enter your location code. And then you're going to check their ID. Now, these might be students that you're working with all the time, so you probably know who they are. But if it's someone you don't know, you're going to check their ID to verify that they are indeed who they say they are. Obviously, you don't want someone coming in to take an assessment and pretending they're someone that they're not. We then have a NorthStar testing code of conduct, and you would read that to them or paraphrase that to them. And it basically is just saying that they're not going to cheat. And then you would activate the proctor using the proctor pin. So where you find that, and like I said, you would each, for those of you who are proctors, you each have your unique proctor pin that you don't want to share. You definitely don't want to share with the learners. Just keep it confidential. I mean, I'm sharing mine with you, so hopefully you don't use mine. But where you're going to find that is, if you remember, we've been in this blue navigation bar. We were looking at learners. Now we're in the assessments tab. And here's where you're going to find that assessment launch page also. So here's that unique URL to you. Here's that location pin that's unique to your location. And then here in yellow is your proctor pin if you are a proctor. That's where you can find this information. So now if you want to do the proctoring, when someone goes into, when they enter that unique URL, what you can do is you can either enter in your unique proctor pin for them without them, looking, I guess. And so what that would look like, so if I'm going to go to this launch page, I'm a learner, I want to take this, and I'm in like a lab with you, you'd come over, you'd enter your proctor pin here by where it said validate proctor, and you would enter that unique pin to you. Oops. And then press authorize, I think. And so then you can see that what they see is that they see this green ribbon and it says the proctor mode is on. So that means that you're ready to proctor. This information will be counted as proctored. If they pass, they're eligible to get the certificate. Now, if you are teaching in person a large group of people, or if you're doing remote, if you're teaching a large, or if you're proctoring a large group of people at once, you probably don't want to go around to every computer and enter in your computer pin. That's kind of inefficient. So there is a faster way to do this, which you can also use if you're going to do remote proctoring. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So if I go back to my admin portal and I want to either kind of turn on proctoring for a lot of people in a room or remotely, I can go to where it says view current proctor session here under proctoring and click on that. And then basically what I've done is I've opened the door to my virtual computer lab, right? And I'm saying, hey, I'm here, I can do proctoring. And so then what happens is if you have a learner who's signed up to do proctoring, they're here on your site and they say, you say, okay, I'm ready to proctor. They click on join proctor mode. And then you can see it says it's waiting for the response. So they are basically knocking on your computer lab door, your virtual computer lab door. And then you in your admin portal see, oh, look at Teresa's there and she wants to take an assessment that's proctored. And you can see that it's pending. So then when you're ready, you can just click on Start Proctoring. And what they see again is, they should see that this turns green. And it's a little, my system gets a little confused because I'm doing both at once. But what they would see is that, there we go, the proctor mode is on. So then they know that they're being proctored. You know in your admin portal that they're active, and you can then go ahead and proctor the session. So again, this is if you are in person and you have, let's say, 12 computers and you want to proctor everyone at once. You can easily start the proctoring this way, and then read them all the testing code of conduct, for example, and have them start whatever assessment they're doing. They don't have to all be doing the same assessment. If you're doing this remotely, as long as we say you can proctor up to 10 people, as long as you can see them all on your Zoom screen or whatever video conferencing tool you're using. They don't all have to be taking the same assessment. They don't have to start at the same time, just as long as they are able to mute their microphone and also turn off the sound so they're not hearing you talk to other people. So when you're done, you can press Stop Proctoring, and then you'll be done. It will also give you the option, if you see someone in here, let's say you have 5 minutes left of your proctoring time and you don't want to start them, you can deny the proctoring too. So let me go back here. So to do remote proctoring, we kind of talked about the in-person proctoring. To do remote proctoring, it's pretty much the same. So again, the test taker does have to have a device at their disposal, a computer, laptop, or Chromebook. They have to have the ability to do video chat with whatever system you're using. They have to have a webcam so that you can see them. And you have to have some way of being able to talk to them. And then they should be able to mute their microphones, because if you are proctoring multiple people, again, you don't want to hear the assessments coming over your machine. You would, again, just like in person, well, we do have a remote test taker checklist, which kind of just covers what I just talked about. You also want to have some other support than your video platform, in case people can't get on it. So like a phone or email or WhatsApp or however you might talk to them. Texting. And then before you start the assessment, you really want to make sure they know how to use your video platform. So again, that they know how to mute and unmute. They know how to chat to ask questions. If that's appropriate, they know how to turn off their sound if there's other people taking assessments. So you'd send them that URL, you check their ID, they just hold it up for you. You'd read the testing code of conduct. Make sure they can get into the URL, activate the proctoring session like I just showed you how to do, and then the learners request to join, and then they can join. So this is kind of what we all just talked about. So then you watch them take the test on your screen, and then when they're done, you can they'll get the results page, and then you can talk about it in that moment with them or a different time. Yeah, I'm sorry, I did mean just mute so that people aren't hearing them take the assessment. Because you're right, the assessments themselves do have an audio component. So sorry about that confusion. So to find, if you're going to do remote proctoring, there's a lot of documentation for you. NorthStar is really big on documentation. So the way where you can find that is if you go into your admin portal. And again, in our blue navigation bar, if you go to resources, quickest way to find it actually is to go into the NorthStar manual, the view manual here. And then you see this green ribbon up on top and it says info on remote proctoring. Like that's the quickest way to get there. So if you click on that, it will tell you, it tells you the best practices for remote proctoring document, gives you the remote test taker checklist. So like there is this best practices will tell you what to do before proctoring, what to do before you even invite learners, how to invite them, how to talk to them about the video conferencing that you're using, system that you're using, how to walk through the remote test taker, what am I trying to say? Going through the documents that they have to agree to. And so all that is in there for you to look at, in case you don't know how to do, in case you've never done remote proctoring before. I also recommend that if you're going to do proctoring, practice it first with one of your colleagues so that you feel comfortable. If someone have an assessment that's proctored and they pass it, they get the certificate. And this is what the certificate looks like. It would have their name here where it says Colorado Rocky. It would have your organization's name here where it says demo. It says what assessment it is, the date, and then a place for you to sign your name. You can only the learners can't get the certificates themselves. You have to give it to them. And again, you can either print it or you can send it as a PDF. And so the way you would do that is if you go into the Learners tab that we've seen before, you go to the person's name that just passed the assessment and you click on their name. Then it takes you to this page and you can see when they've earned a certificate, it lights up here. And so then you'd click on that. It gives you a PDF as a download. You open that up. And then here you have the certificate, and then you can either print it or, again, email it as a PDF. So pretty simple. Any questions about the proctoring piece or the certificates or why you'd proctor? Okay. So let's look at some of the reports that you have access to. And in NorthStar, they're kind of a little bit scattered throughout all of NorthStar. So under the Learner tab, you do have some that look at quickly for all of your students, what assessments have been passed and kind of the scores of the assessments and any online learning that the people have done, as well as time on task. So let's look under that tab first. So here you can see that you have all your learners here. If you didn't want to see all of them, again, you could, at the top of every report, there's a filter results, and you can filter by those tags. And so if you want to do that, you can say, I just want the people that were in that Word Fall 21 class. And I just want to see those people. So then, it only gives you those 5, which is more manageable. Now, if we, then I can see here quickly who has passed the assessments. So if there's a hexagon around an assessment icon and it's black and white, that means this person has passed this assessment. It was not proctored. If there's a hexagon that's in color around an icon, that means that this person has passed this assessment and it's been proctored. And so you can, if you hover over it, you can see, you'll learn what the icons are, but you can see what they are for right now if you just hover over that icon. Now, if we go back, and I just want to show you some more people. If we click on any of these icons, we can see what the whole class has done. So I clicked on Internet Basics, and we can see, this person got a 98%. Some people haven't taken it. It would tell you if people had taken it and what their score was. This is our demo, so a lot of people haven't, taken it. But then you can also see what part of the self-directed online learning they've done. So for example, this person did all of that, completed all the practice module for this assessment. This person did as well. So that gives you kind of a quick glance at what your class is doing or what the group of learners is doing. If you want to, as we said, if you want to see someone's specific information, just like I showed you before, you can click on their name. And here it shows you, here are all the modules. So these are all the assessments. And if you hover over them, it will tell you what each one is. Here under best score, it gives you their top score. It tells you how many times they've tried to take this assessment. And then it's color coded. So if it's in green, it's been passed. If it's in yellow, it has not. You'll also see under practice lessons how much of the self-directed online learning they've done. You'll see if they've earned a badge, a digital badge, and or a certificate. If you go into the eye icon, and I'm going to do this one, it will, eye icon in NorthStar means there's always more information. This will tell you what standards this person has missed. And then over here on the right, it will tell you if they've done that piece in the self-directed online learning. So if they had, it would be like a green check mark. If we scroll down to the very bottom, it tells you when they took this test, what their score was, if it was proctored, who proctored it. And again, if you go into the eye and scroll down, it will tell you the actual questions they missed. So, I mean, this person missed a lot, but if they had just missed a few, but they're having a hard time passing this assessment, you can go into the questions and see what the actual question is. And maybe you'll see a pattern of they're not understanding a particular topic, or maybe some of the questions are asking for 3 answers and they're only giving 1. So I would never tell you to teach to the test, but this just can give you some information as to what might be tripping this particular learner up as they're going through the assessments. So that's one, that's, again, we were under learners, and one way that you can see what's going on with your learners in terms of what they've been doing. Another type of report under the learner tab is if you go to the view usage amounts. This is going to tell you how much time someone has spent on that self-directed online learning. And it's going to separate it out between if they're using it while they're at your school. So like, let's say they're in class, you know they're there, versus when they might be accessing it from home or from a library or, you know, outside of class. And so this is, you know, very interesting information just for your program in general to see how people are using it and when they're using it. Some organizations, it's important for funding to know how much time is being spent outside of the classroom. So you can see here, you know, this person has used it quickly at their school and then quite a bit from home.
Can you say a little bit more about how it knows that?
Yes, that's a really good question. So when they sign into their, when a learner goes into their, they enter their email and they put in the password and they're in that learner dashboard that I showed you, which looks like this again, just to refresh your memories. So they'll come first to this page. It won't ask them which testing location, that's because I have several. But here's this question right now, are you physically at the testing location? So if they put yes, then that time is tracked that they're in school. If they put no, then that time is tracked that they're out of school. So that's how those two are separated. And let's say they click no, then they get to their dashboard. And to access the self-directed online learning, they go into details and they, you know, start the practice, either the whole practice, or they can work on just a specific standard. So it's the timer starts once they click on that practice button and they are in the in the self-directed online learning. If for instance, they should leave it open and then go away and watch, TV for 2 hours and come back. We don't want to track all that time because they haven't really been learning. So if the page has not been changed, if there's inactivity on the page for 10 minutes, then we stop the timing. So there's like, I guess, 10 minutes of wiggle room for them. If they have to get up and go to the bathroom and they don't come back to using it, we allow for that. So that's, I hope that answers your question. Was there anything
Yes, thank
else?
you.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really good to know. All right, so that's all under the learner tab, and you can think of it as kind of pertaining to individuals. Under the assessment tab, you can look at a bigger picture of kind of what assessments have been passed and who has passed assessments. So if we go into that, so here I am in the assessment tab. We before looked at the proctoring side. Now we're looking at the assessment results side. So you can look at either all the results, you can separate it out by those that have been proctored, only those that have been passed, or those that have been proctored and passed. I'm going to do this one because I have a big group here. But again, you can go into this modify filter, like on any report, and you can look at it by just the people you've tagged in a certain class. You can look at it, you might say, I only am interested in looking at internet basics. So you would just unclick the rest of these. You can look at it by date range. If you only want to see the people who failed, you can. So there's a bunch of different filters that you can use. But you can see here, it shows you all your learners, what their score was. If you remember, I looked at those that were proctored and passed. So now I have a list of all the students at my school who have passed any assessment that was proctored. Again, if I wanted to just look at social media, I could filter out by that. And here, as before, if you click on their name, you're going to get more information. So you're going to see when they took it, what they took, what their score was, how long it took them to take it. And if they had missed any, this person didn't, but if they missed any questions, those questions would be here for you to click on and see what they were. If they needed improvement on any of the standards, those would be listed here. If for some reason you don't think this was a valid assessment, you can delete it here. So permanently deleted, so just remember that. But if for some reason, it was, maybe they started taking it and then they jumped to the end, but didn't really have the time to finish it, you could delete it. Or if they took it for somebody else and you realize that later, you could come delete it, whatever your reason might be, you could do that. You can also, if you remember from last week, when someone takes an assessment, they get their results page. So they actually see the results. And if you ever want to show that to them again, or if you yourself want to see it, where it says view results page, if you clicked on that, it's going to show you that, and it shows you their score, what are the standards they've passed. This person got 100%, but then here would be the standards they didn't pass. So if you ever want to go back to that results page, you can do that. So those are the reports under the assessments tab, all related to assessments. You can also, I probably should show you this. You can also often download this information into to like a spreadsheet. So here and under our learners tab, you can see you can download the activity here into either Excel or Google Sheets. Under the view usage amount, you can download that as a spreadsheet. Under the assessment tab, again, you can download that as a CSV. So if that makes it more useful to you to work with the data, you can. The last reports I want to show you are more organization-wide. And those are located under reports, which is what you would expect. So if we go to the reports tab, I showed you these last week, but just kind of to refresh your memory. Under the summary report, if you click on here, this is going to show you all the assessments that have been taken by module. And if you hover over the piece of the pie, it will show you, I'm going to change my location. It will show you how many have been given, right? So here, oh, I know what I did, sorry. It will show you how many have been given. So here on this side is a better example, over 2,000. You can still filter those results. So if you want to just look at the people in those tags that, in that subgroup, you can do that, and then it will only show those. You can also do some other filtering here. If you go down to the bar graph, this is showing you by assessment, what percentage of the people in your program have passed this assessment. So here you can see many people have passed email. Not as many have passed, PowerPoint. So this might say to you, well, if someone is, it seems like email is easier for our group. If they don't pass it, maybe we start them out on the self-directed online learning module, whereas PowerPoint seems a little harder. So maybe we should have a class on that, or maybe we should have a tutor work with someone on that. Same with this circle graph. One, it tells you just how you're using NorthStar and that you are using NorthStar. So good for funding. But also you can see if people are given the choice, a lot of people taking the Internet Basics class, not that many in this taking the email assessment. So maybe you have an Internet Basics class, and email, again, maybe it's something that people do on the self-directed online learning. If you go to the detailed reports here, this shows you again what the assessments, how many people have taken the assessments for each topic, how many have passed. And then if you go into the view report, which takes a little load, you will see that information. You also see how long it's taking your students on average to take this assessment. So you can factor that into when you're proctoring, kind of gives you that time management piece. 15 to 20 minutes is about average, I would say, for most assessments. You come down here and you can see what questions the group is having problems with. So like question 13. If you scroll down, you'll see that same information with the highlighted by the brown triangle. And so you can say, well, question 13, that's on, as we talked about last time, that's on what mouse pointers do what. So then maybe you make sure that you really stress that when you're teaching this group of learners, because they're getting confused kind of as a whole on this topic. So it can kind of just help inform your instruction. Any thoughts or questions about the reports? I know I'm giving you a ton of information here, and so I will show you where you can find all that I've told you in the admin portal as well. So the question is, where are reports that show the data students studied as well as their login, logout time? Okay, great. So anyone remember where those were? Which of these three tabs those were under? Take a guess.
Learner.
Yes, under the Learner tab. And the default that it goes to is this View Learners, but that report you're looking for is under the View Usage Amounts. And so here's where it would give the time that they used it. Now then, if you go in under each person, its name there. So there is no report, unfortunately, that would, well, I'm going to take that back. On the screen, there's no report that shows you the date that people did things. I think that it may show that to you on the download, but let's just see here. If we go into the history, it will tell you, it tells you when that the practice is complete. It doesn't tell you dates of when they did that. So it tells you the date of assessments, but not the dates that did the online learning. However, you can get around that by when you're looking at that report, that View Usage Amounts, because you want to keep track of it, let's say for funding. When you do the filter results, you can put that date range in. So let's say you check it every month. you could just do it for that month, and that would only show you the time for that month. So you're not recounting it from the last month or every week or, whatever you want to do. So hopefully that would help. Okay. All right.
Could you go back to that previous screen, please?
Yes. This one or this one? Which one do you want me to show you?
Yeah, I think it's that one. Okay. So nowhere do you actually see their time in and time out. You just see their total time, correct?
Yes, but if you download it as a spreadsheet, I believe, let's take a look at that. So I just downloaded it. I'm opening it. It came as a PDF. Here, I just want to make sure that that is true. So here, it does tell you the date and the time that they, let's see, it does tells you the date. I think this is the time they started, but it's a little computery, so I'm not quite sure about that. That's the time they started. I don't know what the last code is for, and it doesn't give their end time. It tells you what time they started. It tells you their total time, I think.
Can we see it as the CSV?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this one comes as a CSV. I think that was the assessment, but yeah, this one is just in Excel. The assessment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. This will give you that information on assessments as a CSV. And here it does tell you when they started the assessment and when they ended the assessment and how long it took on the, so this is on the assessment, not on the self-directed online learning. But I would say that if having, something similar to this for the time on task basically is important to you, I would highly encourage you all to send that as a request through our support tickets, which I'll show you how to do. Because the team, the more requests we get of the same topic, then we look at putting resources to creating that. So if it's something we're hearing from a lot of people, we definitely consider putting the development time into doing that. And that's how a lot of NorthStar actually came to be. We talked about how to filter by tags. I just want to let you know too that you can filter by multiple tags. So there's not where I want to be. So if you want to say, I want to look at people who are in my Monday class and also in my, who are in the Monday class and in the Wednesday morning class, I can do that and then apply the filter. And I see there's only one person who is in both of those classes. So that's they have to be in both of those tags. If I want to look at who's in my Monday class or in my, let's say I teach 2 classes, or in my Wednesday class, then I didn't really explain what I was doing. I entered the tag up here where it says tag, and then where it says or match the following tags, I click down here and add that second one that I want to say, I want to see people who are either in this Monday class or in this Tuesday class. They don't have to be in both. And then I apply that filter, and then it's going to show me people who are in either one of those classes. So you can, again, look at those different scenarios. Yeah, and as far as if you have to have time in, time out, I don't know what your state requires for time tracking. Not sure what North Carolina requires, and so that'd be a good question to ask Dan probably. So For some reason, my PowerPoint decided to close on me. So let's go back here. And get to where we were. Just gonna cruise through this. You've already seen. So let's kind of look at the curriculum. If you, we talked about there are 12 of the curriculum lesson plans done. Team is now working on information literacy. That should be out this week or early next week. And so I want to let you know what they're written at. So they're written at what we would consider an intermediate English language reading level, which is akin to grade 4 reading level. Here are the CASA scores and the TABE scores if you use those, and if you don't and don't know what they are, probably it's not important to your program. However, saying this, even though this is the level that NorthStar is written at, a lot of programs use it for learners who are at a lower reading level. And it requires scaffolding, of course, by the instructor. So really, you definitely will have to go much slower. You might have to explain vocabulary around the digital vocabulary. Some instructors will use the self-directed online learning modules and show it to the whole class and go through it slide by slide with the whole class, and then really work on the vocabulary. The class will go through the self-directed online learning modules, and then each learner will have the opportunity to do it on their own, exactly what the class did. So they're getting that repetition. And you can also, incorporate both of those too. And then some programs are lucky enough to have multilingual instructors who may be able to translate. And we, in our school, one of our schools, we have a lot of Somali students here in Minnesota. And we had an instructor who spoke both English and Somali. She was working with a group of very, beginning level English language learners who all spoke Somali. And so she decided to teach the class in Somali, but then also in English. And this was a digital literacy class. It wasn't an English language learning class. What she found, to her surprise, was that her students, even though they were very beginning English language learners, they started answering her in English because they really wanted to learn these digital literacy terms and how to talk about it in English, so that they could talk to their own kids about it and their kids' teachers about it. So it kind of was this really cool happenstance where the learners themselves decided that they wanted to not only learn the digital skills, but also the English terminology that went along with it. So there are a lot of teaching resources for you that NorthStar provides. For every unit topic, there is a scope and sequence document. And that will show you all the standards and then what lessons you can find each standard in. So if you are only looking to teach a few standards, you can easily find what lessons they're in. There are, of course, the lesson plans. For each unit topic, we've now added an optional unit project at the end, which is directly aligned with the college and career readiness standards. And so it takes some reading material that you have to do a lot of close reading and reading of, and then what the digital skills that have been taught in that lesson, and then the students ultimately have to create a project. We give you resources if you're going to be teaching remotely the curriculum. It's really easy to do, and I've done it many times, very enjoyable actually. And then there are documents that show how NorthStar is aligned in general with the college and career readiness standards, as well as with soft skill standards. So in Minnesota, they're called ACES TIF, but I don't think that terminology is used in other states, but it really is those soft skills. So I'll show you what all this looks like. But just so you know, there's a lot of support for instructors in NorthStar. Although I will say the lesson plans are pretty easy to use. So you can find all that and the curriculum itself in, of course, the admin portal. And so if we go into our admin portal, and if you look under the resources tab here, I'm sure you can guess where it is, but it's here on the right under NorthStar curriculum. So if we click on View NorthStar Curriculum, here is, you can see there's a teaching guide that tells you the various components of the lesson plan. All the lessons plans are created the same way, so they all have the same components. So if you are unfamiliar with doing like talking about objectives, it would tell you how to do that. Here are also tips for doing remote teaching. So in general, what to think about when you're going to be doing remote teaching, how to prepare your learners for that. And then if you have never done remote teaching, here's a sample agenda that's really a checklist. So if you love checklists and you like checking things off, this is a really great resource. So then if we, here are the curricula arranged in those same categories that you saw the assessments in, as well as the standards. If we click on, let's say, Internet Basics, at the top is that scope and sequence document. What that looks like is this. So here it tells you, what skills that are going to be learned in this lesson plan, what the standards are, the vocabulary, and then let's say you really just want to teach your learners how to fill out an online form, which is standard 9. Then you can come over here to the lessons and see, okay, standard 9 is in lesson 9, and then you might just teach lesson 9 if that met your needs. So here is that college and career readiness standards alignment map. So it will tell you what, go down a little bit. It tells you what standards are in here and where you can find them in this lesson. So you have that there. Here is that soft skills alignment map I was telling you about. So again, it tells you what are the soft skills, the subcategory, and where you can find that in the lesson plans. Here are the lesson plans themselves. And then at the bottom, here's that here's that unit project I was telling you about. So it tells you what standards it's aligned with or what standards are included. The high frequency academic words, the digital literacy terms. If you kind of scroll down, it tells you, what you're gonna, gives you something to read, talks about reading for main idea, doing close readings. And then ultimately you have the application. So this is where you're using those skills as well as what you just read, the learners doing that to create a project. And then at the very bottom, these are the remote learning resources. So if you're teaching this remotely, you don't want to show learners the lesson plan, but you want to show them any relevant pages, that like handouts that they might want to see. So if you clicked on that, it would go to just to those handouts so you could then show them on your screen. Someone asked if the student passes, are they certified by Microsoft? No. So NorthStar is really basic digital literacy. So it's kind of, the Word, the Excel, the PowerPoint basics. And then if the Microsoft certification is higher level skills. So NorthStar would be kind of your gateway into having someone be able to take that Microsoft training and get the certification for the Microsoft certification. Good question. So that's the curriculum. I want to show you in our last couple minutes what other resources you have access to here in NorthStar. So you have this NorthStar manual, and it's very comprehensive. If you click on View Manual, it has different chapters or whatever you want to call it, contents. So you'd have the admin portal overview, how to administer the assessments, using the self-directed online learning for staff, how to use it for learners. If you're an administrator, these are the tasks that you can only do using the curriculum. And so here at the last part, here are those codes of conduct I was telling you about, the test taker code of conduct, and then as well as the proctor code of conduct. And then if you look, most of them are fairly, they'll have screenshots, they'll be fairly clear on how to do things. So you can learn how to do things this way. You also have this FAQ section. So if you look at that, these are broken down into specific categories as well. Kind of general information, the assessments, the curriculum, the online learning, and then tasks. So again, these are questions that we have gotten asked a lot, and so we decided to put them here so you could have the answers to them. The NorthStar online learning, there are some videos that talk about what it is. And then there's a teacher guide that will kind of tell you how you might think about using this in your instruction. Some ideas for that. There's a quick start guide here in the middle at the top. That these are the tasks that normally you start out having to do, whether you're a staff, a proctor, and admin. And again, there'll be some short videos, there'll be some screenshots and directions on how to do things. Proctoring assessments is if you forgot how to, if you went through the proctor training a while ago and you forgot how to do it, you can look here to remind yourself. I'm going to skip the other resources for just a second. Video tutorials, if you learn better by watching videos, these are like 1 to 3 minute videos. And you can see the topics are kind of an overview of NorthStar, the assessments, the admin portal, and the online learning. And then there's several videos under each one on various topics. We looked at the NorthStar curriculum. I talked about if you have a question or a suggestion, you can create a support ticket. So a support ticket is really an email that gets sent to the whole team. And so if something's not working in NorthStar, if you've looked at these resources and you still can't figure out how to do something, or if you have a suggestion for improving NorthStar, you can go to this create a support ticket. It tells you, oh, have you looked at these places? But if you still want to contact us, you just kind of put your question in here and submit it. And then what's nice is that it goes to the whole team. So whoever is most, knowledgeable on this topic and who's most available can get to it and answer it as, quickly, get back to you quickly. Oops. The last piece on here is this other resources. And if we go into that, I think, well, this wants me to create a support ticket, so hold on. Here's the proctor training again, if you want to refresh on that. Here are where all the standards are. So if you want to see all the standards in one place, like you're thinking, would this skill be taught in internet basics or email? I'm not really sure. You can look at the updated standards, and then it will tell you all the standards for every topic. So, here's basic computer skills. If I continue down, it tells me internet basics. So I would recommend getting kind of used to the standards, at least to the ones that you think you're going to be interested in providing to your students. And then here are those codes of conduct again. We have a style guide. So if you want to advertise NorthStar, here are logos that you can add to your materials. Here's our color palette and font information that we use at NorthStar. Here are also some printables. So like here's a NorthStar poster where you could use it, and you can put in the space below your specific information, your specific school's information, if you want to use that. And then there are also these screeners. So if you let's say don't have time to give an assessment, or you don't think someone's English language ability is high enough to take the assessment, you can do these kind of basic screeners to just get a sense of where they might be at. So for example, this first one, you're asking people to see if they even know these terms and they know what they are. So this is more of a kind of paper and pencil test. But you can also do this interactive screener, which is asking them to show you things. So again, just to see, do they know how to turn on the computer? Do they know how to log onto a computer? Again, just to give you a quick and dirty look at where they might be in their digital literacy. And then lastly, we do have this link to external resources. So as you know, we don't have curriculum for 2 of the units yet. And then we don't have the self-directed online learning for several of the units. So we've created this link to external free resources that you can use with your learners. So let's say you wanted to teach them Google, well, let's say social media. And you went here. This tells you if the resource is something you read or something you watch or something you do. And then we have aligned them with our standards. So here's standard 1. It tells you what the standard is, and it shows you, well, there's a resource that's media, and there's 2 different resources that are reading. Now, the sources may encompass more than just the standard, and of course they all look different. So, just keep that in mind. But here's another resource for you. We at NorthStar created this last year. We aren't maintaining it though, so you may find that there are links that are dead now, just because we now have created almost all of the at least instructor-led curriculum. So I believe that's a lot of information. Your brain's probably hurt. We again look at those resources. It's all in there. If you just kind of remember what I've talked to you about, that'd be great. That's all I had for today. Do you have any last minute questions? I mean, I can stay on a little bit longer. I don't know about Matthew, but if you have any thoughts or last minute questions, or you're thinking about how you might start using NorthStar at your program, that's often very helpful to share with your colleagues. Anything that's kind of remaining on your mind, all this information I've given you. Let's quickly just, before we leave, review again this admin portal, because I've obviously told you a lot of information. So under your school name, you can find the location pin, you can find that bookmark, you can find your Proctor pin. Under the Learner tab, what do we do under the Learner tab? What's the main function? Anybody? You can unmute if it's quicker than typing. What's the main function of the Learner tab? Let's see. Add a learner. Yes, good job. What's the main function under the Assessment tab? To look at the assessments, to check progress, and to do what? It's written on the page. If I want to do, I can look at the assessments, but I can also do proctoring. Yes, right. If I want to do proctoring, here's where I can do that. Here's where I can find the information to do proctoring. How about reports? What's under reports? It's kind of easy, but what kind of reports can I find under reports in general? Students' results. Under reports, these are more those macro views. So kind of what's happening at the whole organization, or the subsets, if you remember that. Location information is just for admins. Yeah, we can see how students are performing under reports. And then resources, this is where you're going to find the curriculum and where you're going to find, teaching resources. So with that, if you have no more questions, I will say goodbye. I know I'm doing another training on this topic tomorrow. And then there's one on Friday too. So if you want to join again and hear it again, you can. It's also been recorded. And then well, not next week, I don't think Thanksgiving week, but the week after, we'll be looking at NorthStar from a learner viewpoint. So what do learners see and how do they interact with NorthStar?
All right.
Um,
Thank you very much. This will be recorded and has been recorded, and I will be putting it up on the website for everyone to have access to. Yesterday's is also up there, and we're going to put them all on our website, so you'll be able to have access to them. So if there's any more questions.
All right. Well, then I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.